Okay, so time management and task management. We all have a lot on our plates. We all have a lot coming in through various different inboxes of sorts. And we've got to figure out a way to handle all that, to manage all that. There's a lot of different systems. I want to give you just one approach to time and task management. And before I do, just a couple of just guiding thoughts and caveats as well. First off, like I said, there are many ways to do this. This is just a system that works for me. And if it works for you, great. I do want to say up front, I've been strongly influenced by this book, Getting Things Done by David Allen. Strongly recommend it. One of his things is for everything that comes into our inbox, we have to decide if we're either going to do it, which if it can be done within 3 minutes, do it right now, be done with it. Defer it, meaning I'm going to do it later, in which case you need some system to capture that. And that's what I'm going to talk about here. Delegate it if you're in a position to delegate things, or drop it, being don't even need to do this, goes in the trash kind of thing. And when I talk about a system, just a couple of things. One is a good system should not have any leaks. And by that, I mean, if I do defer a task, say I can't do that right now, so I'm going to have to do that later. I need to have such trust in my system that it works that I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to think, it's going to slide off the plate. And so our system needs not have any leaks. And then also our system should have a way to provide a little bit of accountability. You know, when I say I'm going to work on something for the next hour, do I work on that thing for the next hour? And that's what I want to show you in terms of here. Now, I'll start by saying most of us have a de facto to-do list we work off of, and it's a really bad one, and it is our email inbox. That's how most of us work, is whatever comes email inbox is what I need to work on next. And there's a lot of reasons why I think that's a bad idea. And I actually recorded another video. I'll put a link to it on how to manage your email and an idea of what I do. It's called Inbox Zero, trying to get down to zero by the end of every day. So you can watch that one as well. Okay, so what's my system? How are we going to do it? So what I use a Google Sheet, and I have a template here, which I will share a link to it as well. And when you think about things you have to do, tasks you have to manage, you kind of have things coming from two directions. One is externally imposed. These are, your boss has requirement on you, or you're a student, you're taking a class and you have assignments, those sort of thing. And so on one hand, we need to have a way to react to those. These tasks come in, where do I put them so I know how to track them? Now, on the other, if that's all we're doing, then folks would, the management people would tell us, you don't want to just be in reactive mode. You want to be proactive. So you also have things that you think, nobody's telling me I have to do this, but it'd be a really good idea to do. So I want to be able to have a way that I'm doing those proactive things as well. So I've got this spreadsheet over here, and I want to show you just for a second on how I work with this. And so let me actually bring it. Yeah, there we go. So on the far right side, let's start with the proactive side, is I have broken down by roles, different roles that I have. And on the far right is my major goals for this week, broken down by role. And then every day I'm going to bring over, okay, out of that, what am I going to try to get done today? So roles. So let's say you're a student. I teach at the Naval Academy, so I'm going to gear this towards students at the Naval Academy. So one of your roles might just be student. You might find it easier to break it down by particular classes, student in this class, but let's just start there. So let's say, as a student, you look and you say, okay, well, I know I need to get, homework, finish homework 20, finish lab 3, and let's say you've got a longer range one, a history paper, but you're going to do complete first draft of history paper. Okay, so I know I need to get those done this week. You probably have more than that, but for purposes of what we're doing here, we'll just leave it there. By the way, notice I didn't say start history paper. You want to have something you know if you accomplished or not. So complete the first draft, all right? So you might have that. Now, again, if you're a student, you might also have clubs you're part of. Naval Academy, we call them ECAs, extracurricular activities. So let's say you're an ECA president. Okay, so I don't have to do that again. And that might have its share of things. Maybe, set up planning meeting for next event. Okay. And I'm sure there's other things there. Then you have other things that you want to think about too. Like, let's say you're a daughter. You have parents, your daughter, you might say daughter and sister or something like that. You might have some things there. Now, this is again is a good example when nobody's externally forcing things on me, but you might say, "It's right, Dad's birthday this week. I really want to make sure I get birthday card for Dad." Okay, and then you can have other roles as you go along here. Sometimes, as you go through life or through a year, your roles might change. Maybe you'll delete some of these and keep others. Okay. All right, so I usually at the beginning of each week, I have a time set aside. For me, it's Monday mornings. Sunday nights might work better for you. Again, from the Getting Things Done book, but he talks about having a weekly review. And this is a really key, knowing there's a time that I've set aside and I'm going to be disciplined that every week. I'm going to go back and look at this stuff. So part of my weekly review is setting this up. What do I need to get done this week? I also look at my next 3 weeks, my calendar as a heads up. And then I also look at my longer range project tracking, which we'll talk about at the end. So that's my weekly review. I'm disciplined. That happens for me every Monday morning, and I make sure it does. So that would be setting this up. Okay, so now let's kind of, that's big picture. Now let's zoom into a particular day. Let's say it's Monday morning. How does my Monday morning go? Well, first off, you might have, and if this is helpful for you, a kind of a master schedule in terms of do I have a plan for when I want certain things to happen? When do I want to get up? When do I want to do exercise? So let's say, you just have a nominal plan that I want to wake up at 6 o'clock and maybe first thing I'm going to do is exercise. Okay, so I'm going to go copy, paste, and then maybe shower, etc. And then, so maybe, breakfast and start work, or maybe for this student starts school day, start work, start school day. So that can be helpful just in terms of like, what do I want my day to look like on a regular basis if you have something like that. But now let's zoom into kind of the tactical, the minute by minute of going, okay, let's say you actually did this, you're on schedule today and it's 7:45. And lo and behold, you actually have the first 2 periods off. So you have 2 hours to work with. Now, here's a danger. 2 hours of time can quickly dissolve into 19 different tasks that you do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you end up just not using time efficiently. So here's what I find really helpful for me is at the beginning of that time, I might break it up by an hour. I might say, okay, what do I actually want to do with the next hour? Well, first let's come over here and I need to say, what do I actually need to get done today? So these are planned for the week. And let's say today I really need to finish homework 20 because that's due date's coming up. I'm going to work on this. And I really should get that birthday card for my dad. Okay, which one of those makes the most sense to work on right now? Hey, I could get that birthday card, but that actually might squander. I've got this 2-hour chunk. Let's use that. I'll get that birthday card later on when I'm kind of 15 minutes in passing or something like that. So then I look and I say, okay, what should I work on first? Let's do homework 20. I got to get that done. Realistically, how long do I think that's going to take? I think that's going to take me an hour. Okay, let's okay, so what I've done now is I've given myself instructions. This is what I'm working on for the next hour. A lot of times I'll at this point, if I've already checked email, I'm closing my email tab, I'm doing all that so that I can focus. This is what I'm doing. And then I get to work, okay? And I'm working on homework 20 and working on homework 20. Now, what happens sometimes is you're going along and let's say you worked a little bit, you worked for about 20 minutes, and then somebody stopped by and they mentioned something, you talked for a little bit, and then you happen to check your email and an email came in and send you down a rabbit trail. And before you know it, an hour's gone by and you say, what did I actually do? And to me, this is helpful to actually go back and say, okay, what did I actually do? Well, for that first half hour, I was working on this, but then actually what happened is talk with a friend and then email. Okay. Now, maybe you needed to do those things. There's nothing totally wrong with that. But it is a little bit of an accountability to say, okay, I meant to spend an hour on this. I didn't. Now I need to stop and reassess. What am I going to do with my next hour? Okay. So maybe with my next hour, I say, okay, I've got 1 more hour free before I have class. Maybe I know I've got 2 more. I got about 30 more minutes I need to do on homework 20. Let's knock it out so I can have that done. Then I'm going to have 30 minutes after that. I think this is, I just need to send a quick email and then, hey, I can get the birthday card for dad on my way to class and I'll have that done. Okay. Now I go back to work. So now let's say you did that, and awesome, we got homework 20 done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to mark that done by changing these to green. So now, cool, those are green. Kind of feels good, got something done. And like I said, you can go in and say, what should I do next? And I'm doing that throughout my day. The other thing it does is at the end of a day or end of a week, you can actually look how you spent your time. If for some reason you need to track that or whatever, or if you find you're wasting a lot of time, you can actually go in and say, where's that time going? Okay. Now, another nice thing on this is at the end of that day, when it's time for the next day, I'll actually show you what I do is I'm going to give these dates at the bottom. And so what I would do at the end of my day is I'm going to duplicate this for the next day. And I would just rename it to, let's see, today is 22 Sep 23. And then I would just go in, delete everything I did here, delete this one, and put it on reset. And go here by this time. And then if those are green, they're green. And now I start my next day with the next thing. And so literally what I have at the end of the year is I have all these different tabs at the bottom, one for each day. But it's nice. You can just copy and paste right on over. Okay. So that's how I'm managing my 15-minute by 15-minute through my day as I go along. Now, the one thing you do have is you have things in your life that will not get done in a week, right? Or I can't get done this week and they don't need to be done this week. So that's the one other thing we need to be able to track is our longer range tasks we need to get done. Again, David Allen, what he recommends is maintaining a list of what he calls his next action list. So rather than having this, complicated thing of just, boiling it down to what's the absolute next action I need to take on this project. So let's say, again, as ECA president, let's say, you really do have this big event coming up that's going to be a multi-week planning thing. Well, then what I would do is I have one more template here, and I might have a project name for that. And so let's say, event plan. Okay, that particular project. And I literally am just going to have a list of all these. And so then let's say what's a next task I do. I've already set up that meeting. Let's say I need to reserve room for an event. Okay, I'm not going to get that done this week. It doesn't need to be done, and I don't have time, but I need a way to capture that. Okay. Is there a due date? Sometimes there are, sometimes they're not. Let's say this one happens to do it due date that I need to have it done by, let's say 9/30/23. So I'll do that. And then any notes that I need on this, anything that's going to be helpful for me to go along with that, do that. Let's say there's one more event or one more thing I have to do with this. So I'm just going to copy that whole line over. And another thing that I need to do is, set up for a speaker or something like that. Okay, maybe this one doesn't have a due date. That's fine. You'll notice I have these up here by filtered, so you can actually filter by a particular event or project name. The other thing I have here is what I do is tracking completion. So my default is a 0. There's probably much more elegant ways to do this. Google now has drop downs and stuff. Probably should be using that. I'm not. But then for completion, what I do is let's say I've reserved that room. Change that to a 1. And what I can do now is I go up into my filter, and if I only show my zeros, it will only show the things that I've already done. So that one will go away. But if I ever need it, if I ever want to see everything, I can always go select all and see everything that I've done before. So that's how I'm capturing things that are not fitting into this week that still need to be captured somehow, but they don't quite fit in to this back here. So that's all the things. I will say this approach is great for kind of just keeping up with daily life as a student or something like that. If you're a project manager or something, you probably are going to need much more detailed and kind of tools. But this is just a simple tool that you can use as you go along, and I hope you find it helpful. There are links to these templates that you can use, and happy time management.